When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to Football 24/7, another breaking news free agency edition. Eagles have addressed the linebacker position. Linebacker Devin White here on a one-year deal for up to $7.5 million. John, I know we've kicked this topic around, and specifically we've talked about this player a lot. What's your first takeaways on the first addition to the linebacker position in free agency?
Well, I'm going to be positive because I've been accused of being negative lately. It's funny, I'm either in the Eagles bag or not, or I hate them, whatever. But this is the most athletic player that the Eagles have had playing linebacker for a very, very long time. Has not translated on the field in Tampa Bay, though. He has not performed well, to say the least, with the Buccaneers. This is a former 5th overall pick in the draft, I think 2019, I believe, somewhere in that range. Big-time talent. His PFF grades are abysmal. I don't mean bad. I mean abysmal, and they have been for years. I don't think he's ever been out of the 60s, so for those people that, not that they're the be-all, end-all, but I always say, they're usually a good guide. If they say you're playing well, it's a good guide that means you're playing well. And if they say you're playing poorly, it's a good indication you're playing poorly. And I know last year they had him 80 of 82 linebackers rated. That's where he was. So on paper, this is the classic big name trap. People are going to get excited because he was the 5th overall pick in that 2019 draft. That has never translated onto the field in Tampa Bay. He got benched in Tampa. He did, however, when Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, it was unbelievable. He was great. He was great in that playoff run in the playoffs, but he's never sustained it over a long period of time in the regular season. So it's going to be interesting. I guess at this stage, it's worth a roll of the dice. We've talked about it here on Football 24/7. We've talked about it on Birds 365. They need to add talent to this linebacking group, and this guy is athletically gifted. As I said, maybe you got to go back to Michael Kendricks to find somebody with the kind of athleticism playing the position that he will bring. But the knock on Tampa Bay, and our buddy Rob Matti's down there now. He talks about it all the time. Rarely in the right position. A lot of over pursuit. A lot of false steps. We'll see. I mean, it's up to Bobby King. He's the new linebackers coach. But Nakobe Dean and Ben Van Sumeren were the off-ball linebackers entering the day. So at least you have a veteran player who's played a lot of football, I guess, and you got to sign somebody. But, it'll probably be good to have a contingency plan at some point down the road here.
Yeah, and a decent price. I mean, we'll see what the contract turns into, and, it's always agent-reported numbers, but 1 year, $7.5 million, that's decent money for a roll of the dice. He is only 26. Former Super Bowl champion, as you mentioned. He won that down there in Tampa when Tom Brady was there. Former All-Pro, but he was benched last year. He had, as you mentioned, terrible PFF numbers. It'll be interesting to see how he can play. Maybe he's a bit more motivated now with a fresh start in Philadelphia. Obviously, a lot of hype around the team. Sometimes the players like to buy into that, but definitely some concern with him and how he played last year in Tampa.
Yeah, and that's why obviously somebody of that pedigree is getting a 1 year deal at this stage on essentially a second contract. So this would be you see it with Patrick Queen, for instance, as a young linebacker cashing in, who played well at the end of his rookie deal in Baltimore, a former first round pick. Here's a top 10 pick who had not played well, and he's got to play on a 1 year prove it deal. And maybe that does help because it's sort of um, uh, a come to Jesus moment that he's got to prove something. And maybe he's able to do that in Philadelphia and get his um, career back on track. But you're going to see a lot of people. I'm out right now, so I'm doing this from my phone. I see Des Bryant chiming in. Eagles aren't messing around because of this guy has this big name, big reputation. You're
Right.
going to see a lot of this excitement. And I'm just warning fans, it has not translated on the field for Devin White. Again, 80 of 82 linebackers were that's where he was ranked last year by Pro Football Focus, and that's not good, folks. Now, Nick Morrow, I know, was 36th, to give you an indication,
Yeah,
and
it's
I know he's
unbelievable.
not popular.
Right. Hindsight's 2020, but boy, that TJ Edwards contract is looking darn good right now. But here's a tweet from Thomas Peterson. Devin White against the run among linebackers since 2020. 2020, fourth worst. 2021, second worst. 2022, fourth worst. 2023, worst. Now you add in Bryce Huff. Let's say Hassan Reddick is back. They're really counting on Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter to stop the run, or else this defense is going to be a liability in the run game.
Yeah, I mean, I was concerned, and I'm glad Thomas tweeted that out because yeah, we're not making up these numbers. I mean, he has not performed well. In the case of Huff, I think it's a little bit different. He was, he was an undrafted guy, sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, who worked his way up with the Jets and became a situational player. So he's a projection. He's a big time free agent projection, and that's the trick to this thing is you say, all right, you look at these players and say, I think this particular player has a chance to do more moving forward. And that's what the Eagles think of Bryce Huff and paying him $17 million a year. But remember, last year when people say he was bad against the run, and he was in theory, he only played about 440, somewhere around there. I forget, I don't have it in front of me, that number of reps. And his job was to be a situational pass rusher and go after the quarterback. Now he's going to be a starting player for the Eagles. And maybe he can do it, maybe he can't do it, but he's never been asked to do it in the past. And the Eagles are projecting him to be a good player. So that to me is a little bit different than somebody like Devin White, who has been a starting linebacker, expected to be a top tier linebacker, did not deserve that all pro recognition. Um, and people think, he was a great linebacker because of that pedigree, and he never really has been. Um, to me, it's a lot different. Huff has got potential, and this is a player who's got tremendous athletic skills, but has never lived up to them.
Yeah, and we'll see what they end up doing here at linebacker. I don't imagine they'll be done at that position, but I guess you would anticipate he'll be the starting off ball linebacker on when the season opens, right?
Yeah, right now it would be N'Kobe Dean at middle linebacker and Devin White at weak side linebacker and Ben Van. But don't count out Ben Van Sumeren, who was an undrafted player last year for the Eagles, showed some signs. Speaking of him, he's a tremendous athlete as well coming out of college. That the knock on him, he was very raw, hadn't played a lot of football. And who knows? He might click, and he showed some things on special teams. And not saying he's gonna be the answer, but you never know. As Bryce Huff, you mentioned T.J. Edwards was undrafted. a lot of those guys get looked over, and they turn out to be really good players. And if you're the number 5 pick in the draft, you're supposed to be a good player. And people like Des Bryant assume you're a good player year after
Right.
year after year, even when the film doesn't necessarily say that.
All right, John, it's Howie's season, and he makes another move. And as you mentioned, it's a big name, so everybody will be jumping with joy about it, but we will see how it plays on the field. John, thank you for jumping on. I know you're out and about right now. Appreciate you doing the hit. Have a good rest of your night, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Sander. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and we'll catch you in the morning on Birds 365 at 8 a.m.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
EAGLES, Eagles.